I like, of course, the topic of this year, which is like innovation at scale, and no better place to discuss this than China. And in this topic, it's something that I like because there's two big things I focus on in my work, which is metals and mining and materials, and also advanced manufacturing. And of course, these two things come definitely together when you talk about innovation at scale. The whole chain between the materials and then the technologies that go to customers, that end-to-end supply chain, value chain, is exactly what we have seen in China as something that has developed very well.
麦肯锡全球资深董事合伙人艾嘉瑞长期关注全球制造业与产业转型，他多次参与夏季达沃斯论坛，来华工作与研究已经超过了20年。作为全球最具影响力的管理咨询公司之一，麦肯锡长期为跨国企业与政府提供战略与产业转型建议，并通过麦肯锡全球研究院等机构发布宏观产业研究，在全球经济与商业决策体系中具有重要的影响力。
As we are kicking the 15th five-year plan this year in China, from your perspective on manufacturing and digital transformation, which industries do you think have the strongest growth potential in China over the next 5 to 10 years?
They have been looking at around 80 industries, and we've selected 18 of them that are growing faster, that have more innovation, attract more investment, and also are actually doing better in terms of like return on investment. And if you look at these 18, they can be grouped in 5 big categories. And in 4 of these categories, China is very strong. One of them is, of course, everything which has to do with the AI foundation, right? This is like AI software, but also semiconductor and cloud and so on. I think the other one is electrification. Right? China is known, right, for being at the forefront of batteries, EV, also power, I would say, in general, in all the infrastructure that, like, allows everything else, right? The third one is definitely I would say the smart hardware. And then I would say the other one is still the broader digitization. And then there is, of course, also video streaming, and there's gaming, and so on. This is all there.
So we're entering a new phase of development. So I guess the logic or the game for foreign companies in China is completely different, right?
They need to first be in China for China, right? They need to be local. They need to have local team, local decision making. They need to be able to compete with local entrepreneurs that are really very active, innovative. So they need to be local. Then they need to actually also be in the local ecosystem, right? Have local suppliers and so on, because the whole innovation miracle of China has to do with the ecosystem.
在全球制造业数字化转型过程中，一个被广泛提及的标杆体系是灯塔工厂网络。这一体系由世界经济论坛发起，并联合麦肯锡公司等机构共同推动，旨在识别全球范围内在第4次工业革命中实现数字化与智能化规模应用的先进制造企业。
Because the network announced a bunch of new companies, I guess the actual number should be 16 selected this time, and half of them are from China.
Yes.
So the question is, why are we seeing so many lighthouses emerging in China now?
Now we're in a different phase, I would say. Now the real driver of this is that if you are not training in the biggest and the toughest gym, you actually are not ready to compete. So we now know involution. Right? There is so much competition between different companies in China. And so now this is the driver for further innovation, for further looking for new use cases, applying new technology and so on. This is very special in Shenzhen, in Guangdong, is that you have now also world leadership in terms of product and production systems. Not just product, but also production systems. Right. Like 3D printing, everything that is really innovating, not only the product, but also how we produce the products. And I think that is now really new. This means that, like, there is now a playbook in the province that is ready for innovation, not just for manufacturing. where they have moved from being a factory to being an innovator of the world.
So, because we all know that the APEC summit will be held in Shenzhen this year, and against the backdrop of the supply chain restriction and the increasing technological fragmentation, how do you see the potential for cooperation among the APEC economy or the Asia-Pacific economy to cooperate in manufacturing and digital transformation?
Yeah, this is a very, very good question, right? Because of course APEC has been there for some time, and actually the collaboration has been there also for a long time. If you just look at China. I actually came 20 years ago to China because I saw the boom in steel happening. And actually in steel, iron ore has come from Australia to China. A lot of ores have come to China, and China has become a specialist in processing. So collaboration has been there forever. Of course, today we are focusing more on what divides us than what makes us collaborate.
埃加瑞表示，在全球产业链不断重构的背景下，跨区域分工与合作模式正在被重新审视。从资源供给到制造加工，再到最终市场，亚太经济体之间长期形成的产业互补关系，仍然是全球制造体系的重要基础。
And China can play a special role in this because of the scale it has, right? And if you look, for instance, in battery. Yeah, battery is already a collaboration because there is ore that is in Indonesia, gets processed in Indonesia. Maybe part of it then goes to China, goes into the ecosystem. China has developed technologies. Then maybe assembly is in ASEAN, and then there is a battery pack going to somewhere in the world. So we already see new ways of collaboration where different countries and different companies are playing their role as specialists. But eventually it needs to work into an ecosystem, right? An ecosystem where, everybody pulls everybody else up and there can be real win-wins.